Troy, are you allowed to talk? I'm recording, by the way. Are you allowed to talk about where you are right now?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, never mind. That's fine. We want to talk about that.
I am elsewhere. Hi, I'm from elsewhere. Have you ever been?
I have
It's
not. I
beautiful.
had something that I wanted to talk to you guys about today that's very, because, we're a really trendy podcast, it's always
Does it
up to
rhyme with
date
Tony
and current. It doesn't.
and,
I
and
watched
Dungy?
American Psycho for the first time,
What?
Oh, okay.
and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yes, of
I
course you would.
loved
movie.
it. I like, I
Did you immediately want to go listen to Huey Lewis in the news?
100%. No, it was so interesting. And then I looked into it, like, the end of that movie is like, you don't know what's real and what's not. And so I ended up just like reading a bunch of stuff, which I love doing whenever I watch a movie like that, and then found out that it was a female director. And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Because there are sex workers in that movie, none of whom are ever like grossly sexualized. And I didn't realize it while I was watching it, but then none of it's like creepy. They're just kind of there and exist. And it's also the fact that he's such a douchebag that I was worried before watching that movie that it ran a high risk of glorifying him or making him like desirable just based on the images I had seen.
Which the book does a bit, right? The book, I've not
think
read it, but I've heard that
supposedly.
about the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do that at all. He's such a fucking tool. And it's
It's good, but the Mia Kunis sequel is better.
I was just going to bring that up. Do you know that there's a sequel to this movie? That
why?
they
Mila
made
Kunis?
so this is what's hilarious. They made a sequel that is not. It was not shot to be a sequel. It was a movie that they basically made a terrible thriller, and they were like, "What could salvage this?
the
Is there
Cloverfield
any
paradox of its day.
yeah? Is there any like IP that we can kind of staple onto this and sort of claim it is a sequel?" So they took a movie that was 95% done and definitely not at all, but kind of vaguely plot adjacent
They have
enough.
like some voiceover.
And then,
Isn't
yeah,
she
they-
like they made her his sister or something, right? Or something.
Yeah, I never saw it. I just watched like reviews of it because I thought I didn't know it existed, and then it came across randomly, and I was watching like baffling YouTuber takes on it, going, "This exists!
Yeah.
Holy shit!"
That's wild.
And I
Can I ask you a question,
Lana?
Alanah?
I
Yes, sir.
subscribe
What's
to the
it like
Baffling
with a movie-
YouTubers Patreon, by the way.
I'll come back to it.
Oh yeah, well worth the. I'm bailing.
I was
I'm
going to
bailing.
ask a question. I want to ask a question.
I was gonna make a thing out
ahead.
of it. All right, go ahead. Go.
going to ask a goddamn question. What's it like watching a movie like that nowadays when it's been so heavily like memed? Like, do you watch it and you like are waiting for the bits that because you must have seen so many gifs and memes over the years from it, or does it just wash over you as a piece of entertainment?
It's interesting. The first time that I watched Alien as an adult, like I didn't remember watching it as a kid. I was like,
Alien
oh,
or Aliens?
Alien, which
Okay.
I love, probably one of my favorite movies. But the first time that I rewatched it, I was like, oh, this is so generic. This looks like every sci-fi movie. And I think
That's
it might
because
have
it was the first.
right. And I think it might have even been my dad who was like, well, yeah, because everything looks like this because of this. And I was like, oh, huh. With American Psycho,
It's a weird curse, though, isn't it? How things can like age themselves out because of their pervasive
Totally.
influence.
I think that I had very little understanding of, like, I didn't know the plot. I knew, I didn't even really know scenes. I don't think I'd seen scenes. I'd seen GIFs. So
What
I
is
had,
the plot of American Psycho? You know what I mean?
I have takes on that also. I really fucking enjoyed it.
Why,
so there
why
are-
did you watch it? Sorry, keep going.
Why did I watch it?
Yeah, like what?
What?
Well, I'm just curious. Like of all the
It's a hell
thousands
of
of
an
movies
interrogation we're
to
putting on
choose
there, guys.
from,
This is
like
It
what
was
made
just
you?
like recommended, I think, on Netflix or something. And it's something that I wanted to watch for ages, so I just did. Yeah,
Somewhat
no,
impulsively, yeah.
yeah, no good reason. I just wanted to watch a movie. I was like, all right, well, let's watch this.
I like how I blinked. I blinked. I took a sip of coffee,
was gone.
and I look up, and somehow he teleported.
That's a long cable. I'm always so impressed by really long. Anyway,
It's always got the gear. It's always
so
got the gear.
to your question, Mike, I feel like I
Chicken
didn't.
Tonight.
The movie was not what I thought it was. Because I think that I had in my head, this is an interesting thing that happens with classic movies like that, pulled different things from different movies and then put them all into what I thought American Psycho was, and I was just
Right.
wrong.
It's a very simple story about a man and a business card.
Kinda, yeah. No, it's about like there's definitely themes of just like toxic competitive nature there, and I feel like the takeaway, I guess, spoilers for American Psycho, if you also have not seen it, it's really
In
good.
20 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. I really took it to mean that he did not kill the guy he worked with. He just desperately wanted to, but couldn't, wasn't in a position where he could. But that it was so inconsequential and nobody cared and nobody even took him seriously when he admitted to killing the homeless and to sex workers. And I feel like that was like the point that I took away from it, was like that, you know, clearly this dude's a fucking douchebag, but nobody even believed him when he confessed.
I like how my my phone.
What's that?
It was my phone. I was watching.
Sounds like an elderly version of me on your phone.
It was. I was watching something on YouTube, and my phone occasionally, I'll not even be touching it. The screen will be off, and it will just occasionally randomly decide to.
Do we need to get you a new phone? Is this like the toilet seat?
Don't start. I've tried.
I like my phone, including
Yeah, but you're the only friend that I have that have green texts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of my friends are blue.
You know, the funny thing is I have an old like burner iPhone.
Why?
Drug dealer. Like a high-class drug dealer.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do you have that?
It's not even... I got it... so the funny thing is that a friend of mine got really, really into Clubhouse and was like, you got to check this out. And I was like, I'm... okay. And I look and it's not on Android at the time. It was brand new. It was like that week. So I was like, well, I guess I could get like a super old, like what's the oldest iOS iPhone that would still be able to run it? Because he was really excited about it. And then I checked it out and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then the phone would die immediately because it was old. Yeah. And so every time he'd be like, oh, I'm in this interesting room. You should come listen. I'd go, the phone would be dead, so I'd have to plug it in, and then by the time it's charged, it's all over. They've closed the room.
Yep.
So yeah, it's basically a paperweight that's been on my desk for 6 months.
There you go. Better than the drugs we would assume if somebody has a burner phone.
Oh no, yeah, I just use my real name for that.
That's fair. You'll be fine.
No one would ever believe you. That's what you say to them.
No one would ever believe you.
You got a hairpin order for
I wrote fucking Journey.
The Bill Murray move.
No one will believe you.
For
my
Austin
favorite.
Wintory.
So there are a couple of things about the movie that I found super interesting. The first was, initially, I thought his performance was terrible. And then 2 scenes in, I was like, oh... So at first I was like, awful. What the hell is he doing? Did he learn to act since this came out? And then it took me a little bit to be like, oh, it's because we're watching someone pretend to be human. So we are supposed to be watching someone who is acting the way they think a human should act, which means he nailed it. And I imagine that was very hard to do.
It's deeply unsettling, right? I remember being really freaked out by them. I watched that movie when I was a teenager. It really bothered me.
Hold on.
It was a nice slide.
Are you going to have the take that actually kind of he's a good character, he's a good guy?
Well, are you saying you thought that like Christian Bale had learned to act since then?
Yeah, because
no, she's saying that was her presumption that he was being a bad actor in it, but no, he's not.
But had you ever seen
Empire of the Sun?
No. I don't know if I've ever seen him younger than 25.
Newsies?
You got to watch Empire of the Sun because...
oh my God. Empire of the Sun.
I wasn't alive.
He's like 8 in that movie, and he's already...
She referred to American Psycho as a classic movie. This is not a road you want to continue down. This is going to be bad for all of us.
It's time for me to take my pills.
This is the part of the podcast where my 3 dads yell at me. Just like, I don't know what you want me to say.
It's 2:30. I need to go to bed.
I hadn't seen him anything. I think he's 25 in that movie. I hadn't seen him younger than that. That's the youngest I've seen him. But also, apparently, everybody else on set also thought he was a terrible actor. They thought he was awful, and then they saw it, and they were like, "Oh," which is super interesting because, like I said, it's someone pretending to be human. You are watching someone pretend to be human, not someone who just is human. So it is really unsettling and creepy. And also, apparently, when it first came out, people hated it. Like the reactions were really people didn't know what to make of it, and I think part of that is probably what happens in it back then probably would have been a little bit more shocking. I don't know, but to me there were scenes that are clearly meant to be funny that are funny, whereas I imagine if you watched it when it came out, it might have been like, this is all meant to be serious and thus is terrifying and shocking, whereas now it's like the business card scene, which I had not seen before, is just actually really funny.
It is, yeah. That I think around that
there's a brilliant analysis. I'm going to find the name of the guy so I can plug it. But there's a graphic design YouTuber who did like a 30-minute review of the graphic design of those business cards in that scene, and it's the most meta, brilliant thing ever.
Around that same year, another movie that is hilarious and was wildly misinterpreted and is only now seen as the classic that it deserves to be, is Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah, I love Starship Troopers.
I watched that over the weekend. Weird coincidence. Linus Bowman, by the way, the graphic design YouTuber who did it's a 15-minute deep dive of the graphic design of the business cards and why every word they use is wrong, and like pointing out that in itself is a funny joke. That's
amazing that they're wrong about it.
Full of graphic design jokes. Man, Starship Troopers is really interesting to watch nowadays. It's kind of loops back into just being pure comedy now. Like it was satirical when it came out, but now
is it not supposed to be funny?
It's just...
No, it is. It's very
it was
much
always seen as satirical, but I think now it's like it feels like a broad comedy now. Watching it in a way that I don't remember it feeling 10 years ago. Maybe I've just grown up.
Well, I don't know that I would ever go so far as to call it broad comedy, but I just think that people were so distracted by the violence, and first off, ignoring the fact that the violence is part of the joke, but also the spectacle, because it's one of those movies that sort of manages to also be a pretty massive feat of production. Like, it was a huge budget,
ridiculous,
like really, really high end visual effects. And I remember there's a shot in that movie. I feel like I'm getting a deja vu. I may have talked about this here before, but there's a shot where they have like bombers come in and strafe the desert and set off and drop all these explosives. And they did that. They went out into the desert somewhere and did that as a practical effect, where they had a bunch of explosive charges all in a row. And at the time, and maybe still, since things are so rarely practical now, it had the Guinness record of the single like longest continuous practical explosive shot in any movie.
Wow.
So it's like the movie's full of these kind of just outrageous achievement, and the fact that the CG holds up as well as it does for a movie that's 20 years old is for those. It's
the Jurassic Park team, right? Wasn't it the next thing the Jurassic Park team went and did?
Probably.
So it's those same
ILM folks.
No, I think it is. I think it's the same
that would make sense
department.
Because they crushed
where
it.
They kind of, because it is. If you look, I watched Jurassic Park. I also watched the weekend with. They had a really good blockbuster movie weekend, clearly. But Jurassic Park is starting to age. Like Jurassic Park, it feels like forever it's been holding up, and now the CG, you're just starting to see like the seams on it in a way that feels that we've moved on just enough that's now a thing.
I'll tell you. Speaking of that, this is not going to be like a popular blockbuster. I also just watched Constantine, the Keanu Reeves Constantine.
That's also a fun movie. That's a fun movie.
I enjoyed it.
Saw that.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it was terrible, and then I watched it and I was like, good time.
Yeah,
I thought it was terrible. This is the first time I've heard it praised. I always didn't bother because I thought it was sort of.
It could be my expectations.
Little ahead of its time, I think. I think the audience were wanting like a sillier movie. I think we're now more accepting of comic book movies being a bit more interesting.
I think especially because it would be in the DCU, people would be like, "Oh my god, this is great!"
True.
Finally.
Yeah. But
it's like a beginning, a middle, and end. There's characters. It's great.
Yeah.
Characters are consistent. Yeah.
It's I do like the TV version of it better. I think that
was great fun.
Yeah, Matt was a far closer version of, like, he looked like he walked out of the graphic novel. Keanu Reeves
and
felt
a fun
like
actor as well, right? Like, was he in Black Flag?
Yes.
He was the protagonist in Black Flag as well, right?
No
I believe
way.
That's the same actor.
Oh, that's
cool.
I
think so. Welsh fella.
Yep, he's Welsh. He's great.
I'm in agreement.
Playing Liverpudlian, of course, because Constantine Liverpudlian?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Which to Americans, that's like 40 miles down the road. So like, I appreciate that to Americans, that sounds like the same accent, but it's very importantly different.
Yeah, I wondered if, because the reviews were so bad and I had always had it in my head that it was terrible, that when I watched it, I wondered if exactly what you've just touched on might be the case. Like, it's not like it was a perfect movie, but I enjoyed it way more than I expected to. Some really cool choices. And I was like, is this maybe because when it existed, we weren't accepting of the comic book movie format? And now that I'm so used to this format, this exists in that, as I would say, one of the better ones. And there was also some really good CG. It's actually aged quite well, and some cool practical effects. But it's not like I thought it was incredible.
It was also genuinely disturbing. Like, there were moments in there I was like, fuck, not like Serpent in the Rainbow, but it was definitely, it was haunting.
Yeah.
Random pull,
I think we all get
I did not see that one coming.
Well. I think people are more in tune with Keanu Reeves than they were in that period. That was very much the period where it was cool to hate on him. And now we get it, It was
after like the Walk in the Clouds and what is he? Is he a teen? Is he a heartthrob? what is he doing? He's like, he just needs to go away for a second, and then he's going to come back. He's going to do Matrix, and then we're going to goof on him, and then he's going to do John Wick. We'll be like, oh my god, I
didn't realize he went through that kind of cycle.
Oh, Keanu Reeves has gone through periods where people absolutely hated him.
No way. In my head, he's like
beloved.
Yeah,
in kind of pop culture, he was a punchline for a lot of years.
Way.
Despite doing excellent work. Like, he didn't
I feel like Point Break was
definitely
the first one, first window of looking down on him.
I think because he always played a range of roles, he was willing to be stupid on camera, I think, which is death if you're good looking.
There was also a period of his life where there was a little bit of a substance issue. So like he was kind of bombing his going all the way back to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure 2, where he almost got fired from set because he was just fucking off.
No, I didn't know that.
And he got his shit together. But like that, you're like Point Break, to where it was like, are you an action star? And then it was like, well, what if we turn you into like the romantic drama person? And then there was just like some really bad versions of that, like the Post Box or whatever the fuck it's called, where they communicated to each other via a portal in time.
House, right?
With
It's
Sandra
like
Bullock,
house,
Lake House?
sea house, lake house.
Oh,
It was body of water / abode.
Something. And then like
Body of Water Abode. That was the working title.
That was the working title. What you do is you always get the pretentious writer. They're going to put a name like that, but it really takes a Hollywood
they
exec
can
to
learn
come
a
in and
new
go,
word.
Lake House.
They'll look it up. They'll be smarter for it.
I had that happen. I had that. I did. One of the best movies I've ever scored was called The Grief Tourist, and the distributor made them change the name because they go, nobody knows the word grief, and if you go and look it up, it literally shipped as The Dark Tourist, which is so
series,
stupid.
isn't it? Dark Tourist is an existing.
I was going to say I've seen that
series.
That's on Netflix,
Yeah, it's
I've never. Well, this was more than 10 years ago, but in the movie, he uses the term grief tourist because the whole principle of a grief tourist is somebody who, like, whereas some people go to, the Grand Canyon or visit the Empire State Building, other people go to like the Grassy Knoll and Ground Zero and
tragedies,
9/11. Yeah, places where something horrendous has happened, and those are grief tourists, and it's like a kind of a niche subculture, and the movie follows this guy who's kind of it's so good. It's kind of a sort of a Taxi Driver type, like unhinged personality kind of movie. Michael Cudlitz from Band of Brothers is the lead, and he's fucking amazing. It starts off with one of my favorite opening scenes where over black you just hear this and it just goes and goes and goes as they do the first initial credits, and then it cuts and you see him, and he's in this at a little card table in this really dingy apartment, like very small, and he's just endlessly pouring salt onto a plate. And then he takes a hard-boiled egg and he rolls it back and forth in the salt, puts the whole egg in his mouth, and then takes a drag on a cigarette with it before he's even chewed on it. And that's like how you meet his character. And it's so fucking memorable, and he's so good. And then, they released it as The Dark Tourist, which made it look like some, like American Psycho 2. It just looks like a straight-to-DVD, like, what the fuck is this? And it's such a shame because it's such a good movie. And the premise was, people don't know the word grief.
It's absurd.
Like, the kind of people that are going to see this movie are going to know yes, this is not a 5,000 screen opening weekend movie. We can accept that.
Wild.
Oh, you're not kidding. The box art for it really looks like
It's
every
terrible.
single straight DVD.
What did you look up? The Dark Tourist movie?
Yeah.
I was looking at The Duck Tourist.
It's a sequel to Howard the Duck. Underrated. No, it's
My
It
favorite
was
Marvel
such a
movie.
shame.
He's a good actor as well, that guy. I like him in
Howard the
Oh
Duck.
yeah.
Howard the Duck. Yeah,
Howard the
that wasn't
Duck,
acting.
yeah.
That's just him.
Just him.
Born
Like
for-
audition.
I can
It's
see
like,
two.
you got
So
it.
There's this one.
Dark Tourist.
Dark Tourist.
Dark
there's
Tourist,
also-
by the
They're
way.
the same movie.
Yeah,
They're
the
same
one that
movie.
they had to feature Melanie Griffith. That second one you showed is the more common one that I've seen.
Boy, there's just a lot of sadness in that sentence. They had to feature Melanie Griffith more.
Well, no, they're always gonna.
It's like I did a movie once that had Cranston and Ron Livingston, but they were small parts, and
That's how they got their distribution.
They put
We have
them.
Bryan Cranston. We
There
have
are no
Bryan Cranston.
small
We have Bryan
parts,
Cranston.
Austin. There are
Yeah,
no
they-
small parts.
they put I should say they have limited screen time. Then they're great in it actually, but they're not the stars of the film. But of course, the people doing the DVD were like, we're going to go ahead and put, this was like at the height of Breaking Bad's popularity, like middle of their run, you know? Well, actually the height was, I guess, the end of it, but it was going full steam and everyone was like, let's put Cranston in the center of the, so everyone will be disappointed when they watch this movie and discover he's in the first and last 3 minutes of the movie.
I'm surprised that you're allowed to do that there isn't some law against that.
Godzilla did it. They were like, do you mind showing up for 20 minutes? It's like, yeah, I'm on my lunch break. It's like, we mind filming our movie? It's like, yeah.
The entire Scream franchise is built on this premise, isn't it? So in fairness, like that's
with who?
Kind of the joke.
When
With Scream.
Yeah, but like who?
Spoilers. There's the joke with the poster of every Scream movie that I don't want to spoil for anyone who's not seen Scream.
Wait, the original or the one that just came out?
Ongoing repeatedly.
I've not seen the new one, so I don't know, but I would guess they do the same jokes in every single movie.
I feel like I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, spoilers for the Scream franchise, I guess, quickly. Jump on 5 minutes. Every Scream movie, one of the people on the box art or poster is killed in the first 2 minutes of the movie.
They die, yeah.
They kill
real
off.
Quick.
So it's like Jada Pinkett Smith in the second one, Drew Barrymore in the first. I can't remember who's in the third.
You shouldn't be able to do that.
But at the start, they're like the protagonist. I had a thing recently.
Yeah, they set them up as the protagonist.
This is like the Psycho. You know, that was. I think that's the first movie that did that, right? Where they took like the super famous movie star and
was hated at the time because of it, right?
Was it?
Like
I
Hitchcock
loved that
was
movie
considered
too.
an absolute
I only
idiot
watched
for doing that.
They were like, we know who Janet Leigh is. We have no clue who. Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Played Norman Bates.
Norman Bates.
Oh my goodness! I feel bad for not remembering the name of the actor.
I can't remember either.
Oh my god!
I gotcha.
Thank you,
Anthony Perkins.
Anthony Perkins.
That's right.
Nobody directed who he was.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden,
it was as well just like that movie. Unless you everyone watching that movie now has knows the shower scene, right? Like that's just pop culture. Whereas all the people who went to see that movie, look at the poster, look at what it was. Like, everyone who saw that movie was not expecting the protagonist of the story to not make it through halfway through the movie. Like, that's... Now you watch it and you're waiting for it. You know it's coming. But...
Right, like what Kubrick did for like The Shining and stuff, towards like, let's just start there. Let's just kind of like, as quickly as we can get people in there. And Psycho lingers in the city for a long time.
Yeah, it's just it's a heist movie or a kind of a slice of life steal. Yeah. She's stolen from her work, hasn't she? Right? She's
like a courier who they ask her to go deliver it to the bank or whatever, and then she just decides or not.
It reminds me. I watched. I remember as a teenager talking my dad into watching. Oh God, I forgot the name. Rodriguez vampire movie.
Oh, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
I told my dad one movie until they get to the strip club.
But I did. So I was like, oh, From Dusk Till Dawn. And I was dumb teenager. I was like, I think it's like a Tarantino vampire movie. And my dad likes old horror movies, so he's like, I'll watch a vampire movie. Yeah, let's do it. And we watched for like half an hour. And he's like, this is just a gangster film, Mike. I don't know what the vampires. He went off to bed, and then obviously, like as a 13-year-old, I watched the most completely upsetting vampire movie.
Cheech Marin, what's he doing here? You're like,
yeah, exactly. He was like, this is just a weird gangster movie with Tarantino playing like a really sketchy guy. Mike, this isn't my kind of thing, and I went away. And then, of course, it suddenly goes full vampire.
Were you traumatized?
Massively, like as a teenager by that film, yeah, that really. It was the guitar. It was the guitar.
From Dusk Till Dawn. George Clooney is so good. He was.
It is a masterpiece, but
plant yourself on the couch. I don't know what I said. Plant yourself. Plants don't talk. If you think you can run,
film.
I got 6 little friends and they can all run faster than you. If you don't think I'm right, see rule number 1. But like my favorite thing that Tarantino did in that movie is, Robert Rodriguez did in that movie. Was
say nothing Tarantino does in that movie is something you want to celebrate.
No, he sells the horror of what his brother did off of Clooney's expression. He has one flash of it, and all Clooney says is, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" It's just so good. And like Dennis Hopper, not Dennis Hopper. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with my brain? I don't. What's his name?
Pleasance, right? Is it Pleasance?
No.
Is it Summer Hayek?
No. Ad Lieutenant,
Keitel.
Harvey Keitel.
Yeah,
that's the only role that I enjoy Harvey Keitel in.
He's great in it. Yeah,
he's so
Alanah, you've
great.
got to sit down. This is
it totally is Selma Hayek, right? Jesus Christ, she's beautiful. So
She is. That's where Salma Hayek is like. It's like
blew
her
up.
peak.
That's the explosion of Salma Hayek in the popular consciousness is that film. Yeah.
it makes
Yeah.
it look like, from all the screenshots that I can see, that Tarantino is he in this movie like a lot? Like he's a
Yeah, he's a protagonist. in
oh,
the movie,
interesting.
It's Clooney
It's like
and
his
Tarantino.
biggest acting role, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they play brothers that are bank robbers,
Which is the most generous casting of Tarantino possibly do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be playing George Clooney's brother in
I mean,
this
I think
movie.
that might be a
That's
foot bit
amazing.
too, which is very Tarantino of him. I think
Oh,
he's maybe sucking on a foot
drinks-
there.
Oh, there
he
was
drinks
yeah,
whiskey
there was
from her foot. Yeah, it's
course
like
he
yeah.
we get it.
Of course he does.
Funny.
It's such, but it's like it's two movies in one, and all of a sudden it just goes turn, and then it goes romp as
I'll see it.
It's amazing.
There's also a second movie?
yeah from Dusk Till Dawn 2. Not good.
Oh, okay.
I think this podcast should just become a show where we recommend 90s movies.
I did consider for a while, because they used to do it to me
That's what this is.
at Funhouse
Time
all
Cop?
the time. I've not seen Time Cop. I did consider doing a series where I re-review old movies. But it's much more fun to me to just talk to friends about them, because I feel like people have such strong opinions on movies that it wouldn't actually be fun for me. Whereas like if it's something where I'm exploring movies I haven't seen and I'm enjoying it, I think that like doing it on YouTube would just be people screaming at me like I didn't like Scarface, or I did, but I thought it was overrated. And I was like, the amount of
It's an
people who just
overrated
get
movie.
mad at me for
I agree
saying
with you on
that,
that one.
like, I don't know that I need to take away this fun thing I'm doing.
Hold on. I think this is another Alien situation where it's not overrated. It's just so many movies have now taken from that.
That wasn't my issue, though. It was
What was
that
your issue?
I didn't feel like it had any substance, and it was very stylish, but I expected it to say something or mean something.
even have a
kid with her, a woman so polluted.
That's
De Palma's kind of
my
MO,
favorite
right?
line is "you white piece of bread." I think that's a great insult. Call someone a white piece of bread.
White
But
piece
I
of
don't.
bread.
I just didn't. I think in my head, which is like could entirely be what I've done, is I pictured it making some kind of statement because of the way people talk about it, and I didn't feel like it made one. I felt like it was stylish and
That's it. The
gruesome
story
and
was
had great
great.
music, but I was like,
Yeah,
you didn't leave me
the
with
s-
anything.
The story was great. It's all about the character.
Sure, and he
So,
was a
and
great
that's
actor.
that to me is what 70s movies were all about. Like watch Dog Day Afternoon. You should really you owe it to yourself to watch the progression of Al Pacino.
So that's part of the problem, is that I watched it right after watching The Godfather 1 and 2. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. These movies are incredible. Holy shit, these are amazing. I see what they're saying. It's so interesting. And then I watched Scarface, and I had them
Yeah,
in the
but
same
that's too big of a
bracket.
jump.
And I was like, okay, Godfather, I get why everybody loves Scarface.
You got to
I
go
think I got it.
Godfather, Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico, then do like jump into, because that like by
I don't know how far
1979.
those are, so I don't know what you expected me to do.
Have I told my Pacino story on the show?
No.
I think so.
Probably not. So I have a Pacino story. I was sat in, this was when we were doing John Wick. I was sat in a really nice vegan restaurant called, actually I won't say what it is just in case he goes there regularly. I don't want to out the guy.
Is this the one we went to?
No, this is a different one. This is in LA. So at a lovely
I
restaurant.
feel like you have told this story.
Have
Feels
I?
familiar.
I can stop then. This is very
Well,
much
no, I
like
mean,
how it
obviously-
works. There's,
We've got,
been
like,
listening to
93
Always Sunny in
episodes of this
Philadelphia
show.
podcast, and every single episode is one of them starting to tell a story, and everyone's saying, you've told that story, don't worry about it. Anyway, look, I'll cut it short. I accidentally gate crashed Al Pacino's like 80th birthday party, and he was amazing, and he did hoo-ha's for the entire room because he was a lovely
You know what?
I
It
sat
gets
next to
better
him
every time.
a few months ago.
You sent me some.
I sat in his lap.
I think it's a hoo-ah, not a hoo-ha.
Yeah, we were at an Italian restaurant in LA last year, and he was seated directly behind me on like a booth seat. So every time that he
enjoys
would
a
move,
restaurant.
I kept being very annoyed. I kept being like, oh, fuck. This guy behind me just keeps fucking moving all the time and readjusting. And
I'm so sorry. I'm moving the table. Oh God.
he's an incredible actor. It's
Tracy.
I think he's a very big actor, but I think he's one of those actors who, for me, showcases. He's an actor who showcases great direction, because when he's directed well, he's the best, and when he's not, he can go a little bit all over the place.
It's understanding the transition from like, because you got this person who shows up in Godfather 1 and he's so demure and like reserved. And then you can see Coppola going, hold it, bye, Austin.
Austin's like, I will not hear Al Pacino
I
slandered.
wonder why that happened. It wasn't like he disconnected. He
No,
just
maybe he
left.
got upset because I was trashing him for Dick Tracy.
Maybe.
That's what it was, wasn't it?
Welcome back, Austin.
You got upset because I was trashing Dick Tracy. No,
Tracy.
no. So, but you,
I have no explanation for what just happened.
Yeah,
you,
cool.
you could see Coppola being like,
Other than my being very
hold
offended.
off, and we're gonna get to that moment where he turns, and then Godfather 2, holy shit, is incredible. But the Dog Day Afternoon is where you start seeing is like what happens if this guy goes unhinged, and then Serpico is really where it starts. Like, get loud. I want to see if you can get loud. So by the time you get to like Scarface and then Sin of a Woman is another like milestone where it's like you won an Oscar for that, but it's definitely like you're now a characterized version of yourself, and people are going to know you for being loud. But if you were to go back to Godfather, it's like that moment with Apollonia is just like, ugh, so good. If you haven't seen Godfather, fuck.
Very, very, very good.
Speaking of Robert Rodriguez,
We were.
Speaking of Melanie Griffith,
How about that Bungie acquisition? Am I right?
I was going to bring up Book of Boba
don't.
Fett.
Oh, yeah, you can talk about
Why?
Boba
I'm
Fett.
not watching it.
I was curious because when we did like a drive-by, like we finished one a few weeks ago, and Alanah, you were like, "I'm not really liking it." Okay, bye. And the episode, but it was after only the first episode, and now I think there's been 5 of them. And I'm curious, have you, Troy? You just said no.
Hey,
Doesn't this look like a funny chair?
Is that your way of saying, for the
does
love of
look like
God,
a funny
don't talk
chair, yeah.
about Boba Fett?
No, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but like there's so much stuff to watch right now, and I'm
There's so much Star
finally,
Wars.
yeah, there's just so much of all of it to watch. And you know what I'm watching right now? This is so dorky.
Arcane.
No,
Oh.
Don't. That's 10 comments just by saying that.
They comment every week
That's 10
about it.
comments.
And by the way, just so you guys know, we won't talk about it until you stop commenting it, and then we'll do it. We're fucking pretentious.
5
like
years
that.
too late.
We're topic
Yeah,
hipsters.
we'll do the episode 2 years from now.
Yeah.
It'll be
By
the
the way, I
Last of Us
watched
Part
Arcane.
2 spoiler
Yeah.
cast, and then half Arcane season review.
So Mike finally got around to playing Last of Us, and Troy finally started watching Arcane.
It's really
I haven't
surprising.
loaded
You
up.
play as like a different character. It's a whole different thing. It's
Wild.
amazing.
I like loaded up. There's stuff that's like I'm feeling that like the COVID production wave hit because there's all these shows that are finally coming back now because like they took huge hiatuses from COVID. Like Billions is back, and I was like, I don't fucking remember anything, and there's so much stuff that I've watched. We just went through Ozark, which is just bravo, so good. But like I have all these shows loaded up, and I can't find myself like starting them. Like if I feel weird. Like, have you ever finished a good book and then you're like, I don't want to start another one because
Feel empty afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're sad that it's over. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been watching poker. I went back and watched like the 2003 and the 2004 World Series because it was just such an iconic moment in like, it sounds super dorky, but
No, I've been meaning to get into watching poker. Is there a specific place I should start then? Is there like a massively awesome?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to
the
understand.
intro here. Do it because I've been getting into poker and I want to watch like some like pro level stuff.
To understand where poker is now, and it's hit its peak and has really kind of died off. But
This isn't what I expected.
Alanah's face.
Go for it though.
Just,
Go ahead.
I know. I genuinely want the intro. I want to know what I should where I should start.
Okay.
in 2003, in 1970 was the first World Series of poker, and 6 people entered. 6 people. In 2003, 600 people entered into it. It all came down to 4 people, essentially. Phil Ivey, Sam Farha, Johnny Chan, and this new guy, Chris Moneymaker. The other 3 guys are professionals. Everybody knew who they were. They had won World Series of Pokers before. They won bracelets. They're big deals. And one by one, this guy, Chris Moneymaker, knocked them all out, including Sam Farha, to win.
Should have known from the name, really. That would have.
Sam Farha was great.
I wouldn't sit down with someone called Moneymaker.
His nickname was Dead Money because he had never.
He was called Moneymaker and he had a nickname.
Yeah. His real name is Moneymaker, and they're like, he's not a moneymaker, he's Dead Money.
Right.
So Chad Norman, I think, gave him that name, or Lama Karen did. Anyway, he had never sat down in a live game before, meaning he had never actually sat down at a table in a casino with other human beings. He had only played online. And it was after that, like 2003, 600 people signed up. In 2004, over 2,500 people signed up. They couldn't fit. They had to move
It
the
opened
venue.
up the sport. It made it feel like something anyone could kind of come in and try.
Now all of a sudden we've got this major sport. Cameras are coming in. Now we have
Pearce, do you have a
celebrities.
question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. How many people was that on the?
600 in 2003,
Thank
and
you.
there was over 2,500 people in
You taking
2004.
notes? This is not going to
Cool.
be on the final.
Yeah, taking notes.
Yes,
for
it
this.
will. Oh no, there's just a fucking blinding light.
It's just real bright. It just got
Yeah.
real bright.
You look like powder right now.
It's kind of scary.
Can you
That's all.
feel-
There's a pull.
I don't care for it.
Lance Henriksen, what else could you want?
Still talking about poker?
Something without, anyway, we won't get into the controversy of that film. But it's an incredible sport, and it's a wonderful insight into people, like culture and how to relate to other humans. I think poker's fantastic.
I remember that big explosion happened when I was in college because we played it in our little apartment of the six of us. We played. There was this period where Texas Hold'em was the nightly tradition for months and months and months, just every night for hours. And that because it was like that was the time where everything that you're describing, I'd forgotten all those names, but this was very much when that was the thing and everybody had to do it.
All of them. I mean, like Dan Negreanu, Chris Ferguson, Doyle Brunson, Dutch Boyd, Phil Hellmuth. I knew all of these guys. It was the only sport, like as people are to like football or proper football, soccer, baseball, like they can name like all the people who did this. I could do that with poker. That was my thing. Yeah. But if you want to watch a really, really good movie that hit just before the poker boom, it came out in 2001. It's called Rounders with Matt Damon and Ed Norton.
That was what got me into it. I watched it about 2 weeks ago. Why am I watching all these relevant movies? This is becoming the new bookshelf. Mike's watched every movie that's going to come up
it's
organically in conversation. But yeah, that is a great film.
Rolled Up Aces Over Kings. Check so high. Can see over him. Ed Norton is so good.
My family has
so good in
like
that.
a sort of I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, history with poker, in that my uncle was associated with opening the first ever casino in Australia. So I could play blackjack from when I was like 12 and poker from when I was 13, 14. And so there was one time where I invited people from my school over for a poker night and had everybody put in real money, though I didn't know that I would be so much better at it than everybody else, and just
You just felted your friends.
Won
That was the only
all
night we
of
ever
the
did
money.
that.
The four of us are in Vegas 3 weeks from now, right? So
Yeah. I stopped playing though
just saying,
because
we
The
rocked up.
three of us.
it's like I could have been a poker
who's not
prodigy.
going? You're not going, Troy. Oh,
Yeah,
Production stuff.
Yeah, I'm shooting, so I have to cancel my hotel room unless I call you guys. It's like, hey, there's a hotel room available.
well, we're going to turn
I mean,
your hotel room
knowing
into
you,
I
a
would
it's-
love to
poker
figure out a
hall,
way for us
though.
to film something in the same room.
Hold on, when is that?
We should try.
It's the 25th, I think.
Dice is 20
Yeah, 24th.
24th, I think.
Sorry, you had to correct me there, Austin, because I was a day off.
It's about hotel rooms. The accuracy of a day matters.
That's
Come on.
That's fair. But in any case, yeah. So I could have like grown up to be like a poker prodigy. My uncle and my aunt had this like gold card that I've always been meaning to, now that I'm an adult, ask them more about, where they could just go anywhere they wanted in Vegas, anywhere they wanted. They had this card that anywhere would let them in and give them an amazing room because they
mafia
were
shit.
in the casino industry. And I went to a casino on my 18th birthday as soon as I was allowed to, but then I stopped because of the amount of people that even by proximity to that I saw ruin their lives. Like just completely ruin their lives in a way that just like even in the first month of being around it, or just like people pissing themselves playing poker machines while they're losing their money, just still sitting in the seats, that I was just like, sucks to watch. That said, now I've always wanted to do it with friends, like have a group poker thing. I just don't want to do it at a casino. The
I had
vibe
to
bums
stop.
me out.
I can't let myself do that because whatever part of your brain people who get addicted to gambling have, I have that. Like whenever I sit down do anything involving gambling money, I get too into it, and it's one of those ones where it's like, no, never gonna go near that again. That's
Me with MMOs,
a door
Mike.
that is close to me.
I can't play an MMO. All right,
Same.
it's gonna ruin me for months. Can't do
Yep.
it.
No, I definitely. Playing
okay
an
to know
MMO is
what you
definitely
can't
getting on the
handle,
wagon for me.
Totally.
That is a thing I
have to commit to
avoid.
knowing I will do nothing else. It would
Yep.
be really cool if we could do an in-person thing for DICE, though, and I feel like this is a good time to bring up that we are going to start recording the podcast due to the schedules of the two men who are on the bottom from my perspective.
Am I one of those men?
You are.
'Cause
Being
I don't like being
super-
referred to as not one of the two men, I'll be
Then
honest.
doesn't it look like, then from your perspective, does it look like our microphones go to like a portal to each other?
No, that
It's
would
like
be
if-
cool, though. If we flipped Austin, then maybe.
Flip
Flip
him for
Austin.
real.
No,
Come on, boy.
it's Troy and...
There we go.
I'm trying to help here.
But now the mic's not in shot. So close. Can you guys talk about what you're working on that will
No.
take you out of action? No? Okay, so the two of them are busy, so we're going to drop back to every second week for the time being.
I only
So-
think it needs to be a few instances of that. It's a short
couple of months?
term. Yeah, at most. I just know it's a particularly it's and the funny thing is it's not that it's been 24/7 stuff. It's just this window of time is consistently an issue.
Oh, I can guess why.
and-
That makes sense.
And so, yeah, so it's like it. I just realized. Look, I saw the consequences of missing one episode. I don't want to miss any more, so I would rather just
Slipped.
I would rather just limit the number of episodes.
Rather than you miss and we
we knew
replace
this
you
was
with different
coming, right?
composers.
Like, it's very easy to forget that this did start as a monthly podcast.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
we all knew this.
I'd like to
'cause
point out that
it's
not
opening
only-
up for me as well. I'm gonna be having to kind of not be here for more episodes as
I'm
well.
fine.
So, like, it's just gonna
Not-
happen. We're gonna evolve the show back.
What's happening to us?
Not only was it once
Drifting
a month
apart,
to start,
Troy.
but the first episode is all Fallen Order B-roll because our video didn't
Yeah,
capture.
I know.
Yeah.
So
Video didn't
we had an excellent start.
You
that
gotta
I
have
would
the
say-
amateur first episode on a podcast. That's essential.
I'm
That
gonna
sets the
left-
whole
I'm
gonna-
field.
I'm going to left
Genre
turn once
expectations.
again since my Boba Fett left turn was complete
No, I
fail.
would like to talk about Boba Fett. I really would.
It's just fascinating to me.
I think it's terrible.
It's not terrible, but it is interesting how they accidentally made Boba Fett already with a made up character that they invented, and then now they have to go to the source, and they're like, "Oh shit, what do we do?" It's interesting. There's
that
things
it's
I
super
like about it,
boring.
but it's also odd.
Nothing happening. I don't like the way it's shot. I think that it's just the characters are just really boring. There's the suggestion of badassery, but no like actual badassery. And then logic leaps. Like the coolest part for me was Sarlacc pit related, and then I was like, but why do you need to go? That doesn't make any sense. You already dealt with that. I don't understand.
Oh, was it after Jedi?
Yeah, it
Immediately,
takes place.
the start.
Danny Trejo. Have I told my Danny Trejo story?
No.
I went to LA with my producer again during John Wick time, and by weird coincidence, we kept going past signs for Danny Trejo's chain of restaurants. Right, these guys in LA. There's a few of them. And we just kept ending up by Danny Trejo restaurants, and it became a running joke throughout the day that I wanted to go to Danny Trejo restaurant that night because I wanted to see Danny Trejo, and I was just like doing the act of the petulant child. I want to go to Danny Trejo's restaurant. I want to see Danny Trejo, and we the whole day that was just a running gag in and out of professional business meetings with me mouthing I want to see Danny Trejo to my producer while he's trying to pitch people on things. And at the end of the
He's
day,
okay. He really is. He's just
we
very
went
excited.
to. I was always waiting for the people to look away from me so I could do it. And then end of the day, we went to the restaurant, one of Danny Trejo's chain of restaurants, and Danny Trejo walked in and was doing the books
He
basically at the
actually was
table next
there.
to us. He's actually like involved in the running of that business.
way.
And it's just the best thing. It's amazing.
That is
He's
good.
an incredibly
So excited.
kind and gentle, like amazing.
Just seems like a lovely bloke. Yeah,
don't know who that is.
100%.
What?
Danny Trejo.
You
Well,
definitely
you watched
need
Boba
to get
Fett,
your
didn't
Roger.
you?
He's in
He's
Boba Fett?
the
He's the Sarlacc.
Yeah, he's the Sarlacc.
The Rancor.
machete, or
Of course, I know who that is. Yes,
every
yes,
Robert
yes, yes. I
Rodriguez
just didn't know that
film,
was his
yeah.
name. Yes,
right.
great guy.
He was in Breaking Bad.
Yes, good
God,
actor.
he
lot
is in
of
Breaking
things.
Bad, isn't he? I forgot.
I was gonna left turn.
Go ahead.
Funny enough, the Boba Fett thing was a bail on that, but I a game that I have heard nobody recommend to me, but I was a huge fan of when the first one came out 20 years ago as a long running RTS fan.
I can spell thank you.
And I randomly tried, well, not randomly, but part of DICE stuff I played recently, and I was like, this is awesome. Why is no one talking about it? Is Age of Empires 4. That's
Is that the new one?
It's a new one. And I don't know if this is something the franchise has been doing, because I played the first one and not since I don't think I've played any since the newest one. But it's like a playable history documentary where in between, like, the campaigns go through actual, like, the Mongolian expansion into Russia, or you know, the 100 Years' War, where every mission of the campaign is a historic battle. And they actually went so far as to go to the real locations and film, and then like CGI wireframes of the old soldiers, which seems like it would be really cheesy. But I was watching and I was like, this makes it 1,000 times more interesting to then play through the campaign, that they are trying to step you through things that really happen. And then they give you, like, you know, Joan of Arc is now a playable character because she was instrumental in this battle in the 100, like, and I just found myself
really
going,
cool.
I was like, neither did I. I played it. It ran. A friend of mine worked on the music, and I was also playing it as part of the jury for DICE. And I was like, I found myself just, once the thing was over, I just kind of went back to it and kept playing and played through the whole thing. And I was like, this is so funny that this one has completely escaped notice, and it's a big franchise.
I played a demo and I really enjoyed it.
excellent
Felt very
developers over there,
nostalgic for it. Like, I loved Age of Empires as a kid, but I'm so bad at RTSs. I'm just terrible at them. That if it's a campaign that, like, heads you in a direction, I'll have an easier time with it.
It definitely does, because it's literally like,
It's really cool.
it's built. It really felt like there's so few games that you could describe as playable documentary where they're aspiring to actually step you through real things.
Yeah.
Remember there was an indie game that someone made about, like, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was a specific Brazilian tradition that they felt was starting to die off, and they wanted to make a game that honored this things that served as kind of like a living.
Yes, I remember what you're
record.
talking about, and that was
Can't
cool
remember.
too.
It was like the hot air balloons.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful idea of like games to serve as an alternative to documentaries, and I don't know. It's one of those.
Ubisoft has been doing that lately, where at least they did it. I think maybe starting with Origins, but I think they've also done it with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where there is like an exploration
like
mode,
museum mode or whatever.
Yeah, that has educational purposes that some people have been using in schools.
I didn't know that.
So cool.
Did you know the coolest thing on Origins was is it Origins? That was the one right before
Egypt is
right
Origins.
after Black Flag. No, okay, yeah. What was the French
Syndicate?
broke French
Syndicate,
one?
Unity, Austin.
Unity.
you're thinking of.
I'm familiar with Syndicate. Unity was the one. Unity, apparently, for purposes of Unity, I feel like I'm having another deja vu. They so accurately recreated a 3D model of the Notre Dame for that game that when it was on fire,
Yes.
they used the like model to better direct the firefighters, because it was like a
Correct.
far more accurate representation of it or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's one of those. Unfortunately, I'm going to be the nerd, and
Is that not a true story?
It's utter bollocks. Yeah, it was
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those urban legends. Yeah, it's because it's not actually because all of the buildings in Assassin's Creed are actually like much smaller than they are in real life. Like, obviously to make
No,
them, like,
you just
interesting
scale them up.
environments.
You just go scale.
But I swore-
Yeah, like me. You treat it like me. Yeah, it's close to the
scale it up.
camera.
Is it true that in the Getaway, like everything was a 1-to-1, and like people could like say, "Hey, that was my flat."
It was pretty good. You could use. I remember as a teenager when I was going on like a school trip to London. I remember like me and my mate would like play the Getaway at home to work out the route we were going to be taking and stuff. And it was relatively
Such a good game, man. I love that
Relatively
game.
good, but not quite perfect.
I
But yeah.
managed to navigate parts of Paris because of Midtown Madness. I was like, oh, I know where this is in proximity to this because of Midtown Madness. I played on Xbox when I was 10.
I was at LAX and was at a certain part of LAX I'd never been to before. I was like, the only reason I know this exists is because of GTA.
Totally. Being
I've
in
been
LA
on this
is
road before.
wild when you first go and like I was like, I've done skateboard tricks on that. It's Tony Hawk. What the hell?
Well, you go to Los Santos, and you take a left. Once you get to it. It's like,
See, I remember when Insomniac Spider-Man came out in that same vein, I tried to go to the exact corner that I had lived at in Manhattan, and that's how I discovered that they cheat that game because all the numbered streets go every other street. So it's like 2nd Street, 4th Street, and then I think the Avenues is actually closer to accurate, but Manhattan, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is actually half the number of streets of real Manhattan to make the map more manageable, because the actual intersection that I was trying to find didn't exist. But it was very close to the Avengers Tower, apparently, which was exciting.
I wish there was more like design conversation around, because the skill and the art in open world games of how you edit a city to make it interesting as a game space.
Totally.
Like, it's just not something I've ever
LA Noire
never
was
seen, like,
another
a
one
GDC
that pulled
talk
that
on
off.
it. Yeah. Like, it's really, there's an amazing
LA
skill,
Noire
and
City
somewhere
is
there are
not
designers
interesting.
who really work. Yeah.
It's part of the
Is that
problem.
because it's too realistic?
It's empty? It could be because it's too
empty,
realistic.
too much
It's
stuff.
just empty.
It
was
too big.
pretty damn accurate to. I just remember
era.
again, that was the apartment I was living in when that game came out, was just off the map, and I was so infuriated because I remember I was so excited because I remember thinking, this is so accurate, and there were so many like historic photos that you could one-to-one with a million locations.
Watch
in the
Dogs
city.
Legion was pretty. I remember Watch Dogs Legion. My flat was, my then flat that I was living in was like just outside the map, and I was heartbroken.
I had Rahul give
So-
me a tour of Watch Dogs Legion as a Londoner, and like direct me to like where he had performed on stage or whatever, and ended up just with people being furious at him for like forgetting directions. And part of it was because he was like, because you just take the tube. In London, everybody just goes underground. I don't fucking know where this is above ground.
I had the same
so
exact
funny,
thing. We did a race to see who could scale or get to Big Ben faster in either Watch Dogs Legion or Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So we started from the same place. And it was hilarious, but I was like, I'm gonna win because I had Victoria Atkin, who's a Londoner. She's like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
She's like, you get on the Waterloo station. And
You learn
take
islands.
that.
Yeah.
It's super
I remember the
interesting.
first time when I was living in London, I actually had to walk across London. I can't remember why. Like, I just didn't want to take the tube or something. And realizing how close everything was, because I was used to, like you say, that kind of that island thing
Going
of just
underground.
like, oh
It's
wow,
so
you can
much
actually
more
just walk
walkable
from
than
these places.
people
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
Everything is a half mile from each other.
Yeah, if you live in London, as I did, and you use the tube for everything, just try and walk between two landmarks. It's mind blowing. You're like, this feels like a theme park because you're like, it's so
all
close
of the
together.
parks are
Everything's so
connected, and it's
Yeah.
but what I found interesting was that the term subway, we in America use it incorrectly. A subway,
convenient. Sandwiches, yeah.
yes, that was quick.
Stupid.
You walk
So
under,
stupid.
so you
But
walk
the
under. It's a
stupid
way
is
for
the fun stuff. That's fun.
that's why people walk under the street is a subway, and then the tube is for the trainsies.
Yeah.
There's an interesting, I guess, a designer on Halo Infinite did a thread about how they approached designing some of the, because that is more of an open world than any Halo game prior or anything that 343 has worked on prior. How he went about like making just some areas of the map look more interesting. And he was telling stories is what he decided to do. Was basically like, okay, so I've decided that like this is an encampment that the UNSC would have been using for training for this kind of weapon. So I'm gonna leave these weapons here, or like, oh, these ones, maybe one of them got hit by a grenade. So there's a med pack to like make sure that all of those little set pieces that people just kind of gloss over when they're playing through is that someone like actually sat down and personally, intimately designed it. It's a
love
really,
that
really cool
stuff.
thhred. I'm just getting really.
I was just-
You
I was
don't
just,
even need to know
uh,
the story. It still works. She really does.
We're watching the Thanos snap
Ascension.
in super
It's
slow
what it is
motion.
Alanah is actually dying, but she's lived a good life, so this is like just heaven's like kind of. She's off now. It's fine.
How nice that the final act was
there's even a
recording
little
this
bit of
podcast.
waft in your hair there. It kind of feels like,
Wow.
oh, that's good.
Wow. My thing just came on and says playing music, set up professional audio and audio settings. Thank you, Zoom, for thinking that I was playing professional music with my humming.
Because you did that. That is very nice. Yeah. Look at you go.
How to tell us you're using a new computer without telling us you're using a new computer.
It does that to me sometimes, just randomly. Does whatever it wants.
To that point of the kind of environmental art, I was
Just talking to someone this week about how when I first played the old Warren Spector original Deus Ex,
one of my
the
absolute
old
favorite
Warren Spector.
things.
one of my absolute favorite things about that
Famously
game.
takes credit for all of it, Warren Spector. Like that. Sorry, carry on.
All the like computers that you can hack that have the world's most mundane email threads on
Yeah.
them. There's just like thousands. Some writers had to write like literally thousands of emails of, you know, hey, I saw you came, like the boss emailing the employee going, you know, you came in late from lunch 3 days this week, and so you know. You're gonna have to keep a closer eye on that, or what, like just because 1 out of 10 will have like a password on it that say, oh, the janitor closet now is this, and we're keeping some equipment in there, and that's like how you can find how to get weapons or whatever. But just the sheer amount of real world noise it exists in that, I've always thought was so amazing as a kind of immersion technique, just to make it not feel like it's some placeholder graphic, but it's actually a thing you can touch, and it has stuff. It has content.
It
It's
has
an interesting
value
because
and-
there's absolutely decision making that goes into that. Have any of you played Quantum Break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually really enjoyed that game. I had a fun time with it. And there's this thing in
Did
it.
you do the other content though? Like, did you also
Watch the TV show?
Yeah.
You have to, don't you?
Well,
Yeah.
I did, at least. So, like, I sat through it. But like that, I was watching the stuff that was playing real time. So I play that game episodically, basically, where I play however much gameplay, and then I'd watch the TV show bit, and then I'd play the gameplay and watch the TV show bit. And I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. But it has this thing in it called it's a screenplay called Time Knife that you can find. I believe it's on somebody's computers.
right.
And it is a terrible screenplay, and it's super funny because I was getting through this game that has like a bunch of serious themes. You know, it's Remedy, where I'm excited every time that I find a new act of the Time Knife. And I looked it up to see like where you can find it. So I think there's 5 acts. And the first line is Bruce Savage, a sexually attractive man, is standing in his office when the scientist lady, who looks like a librarian but is actually a scientist, enters his office and asks for help. And I
It
feel
sounds like
that
a Peter Griffin version of a story.
kinda.
That's such a Remedy.
It was also
play.
It's
really
really,
hot.
Such a
really
Remedy
good that
play.
they like just have this shitty screenplay that somebody in these buildings is working on that you're watching, or you can find all the acts of and put it together. It's really funny, and it's like that's such an unnecessary thing to do, but I'm so glad.
If
they
you
did.
work on that stuff, if you work in games and you do stuff like that, just know that there are people like us that care, and we appreciate
We love you.
all that. I've had to do like for Ghostbusters, I did like 80% of the voicemails left for the Ghostbusters, just in case you happen to check the messages. You would
Nice.
get majority of the time me.
Yeah, those little
that
touches
means-
people appreciate for sure.
Speaking of Assassin's Creed, that's available for the Switch today, isn't it?
Is it?
The
Are they doing
Ezio
streaming?
collection or whatever.
Oh, the Ezio
Ezio
stuff.
collection.
Nice.
I wouldn't mind going back. I brought I didn't bring my PlayStation with me, but I did bring my Switch and my my Oculus.
Hell yeah!
Good stuff. The Ezio stuff.
So I've
And
got
the
a big
arcade
enough room
cabinet
here.
in the background
Yeah,
of
of
the
course.
shot.
Brought the whole arcade cabinet.
I have to run. Feel free to continue hanging out amongst yourselves, but I have to run.
I do also have to run. So yeah, we
Yeah,
won't have an
see.
episode next week, but we will have one the
Alright.
week after, and we'll continue that. And I will just update everybody as that changes, if it changes, and maybe we'll try and figure out how to do something in person for dice if we can.
Alright.
figure it out.
That'd be
That'd be
great.
cool.
Can we? Yeah, I'll bring a body pillow and strap a iPad to like the top of it. And
I was going to say, I
beam-
assume you
beam
already
in-
have a Troy Baker branded body pillow. Don't you?
Exactly,
Come on.
yeah.
I'll
Like,
link you.
He
I'll
sent
link
you one as well, right? That wasn't just me. Okay.
You can only get it in Japan, but it's worth the shipping.
This
Yeah.
is Play, Watch, Listen, everybody. I'm Alanah, a video game writer. That's also Andrew. He's a video game composer. That's Troy Baker. He's a video game actor. And that is Mike Bethel. He's a video game director. See you next week. No, the week
Bye.
after. Bye.
Hey.